It's been my understanding that there's not a single recruit who wrote their blog when requested. Actually, from what I've heard, we all seem to be writing them in our weakest moments. But I'm pretty sure you already knew that. You figured that was going to happen already, didn't you? None of us want to remember our past. I guess that's why we all refer to each other by our numbers, opposed to our actual names. Do you feel that? Is that why you gave us these numbers in the first place? I mean, fuck. Half of our planets were invaded then conquered by the serfs. But that's nothing compared to what 4, 15 and 21 went through. You see, when I'm done, when we're done, I can take my planet back. We can retake Gardner. I can go home. But they can't. The serfs didn't invade their planet. They just straight blew it up. I mean, how fucked up is that? We had one planet that was full of pacifists. A planet that refused to fight. A planet that refused to join this war. A planet that produced healers. And those fuckers just blow it up. They weren't harming them. They weren't involved in the war. I'd understand if they invaded, if they wanted to take the planet, but they didn't. They just blew it up for no reason. Destroying that planet served no tactical advantage. It helped them in no way. It makes me want to run away. Do you guys feel that? That's my power. I run away. I'm a humans with super speed. I mean, it doesn't help that I was also born with advanced osteogenesis, so I could never use my powers. That's super fucked up, right? I get given what's basically a superpower, and not a shitty one like the ability to change eye colour. Oh no, I get a real grade A power. But if I use it, my bones literally shatter and fall apart. That happened quite a few times before someone finally figured out what was wrong with me. That's why I joined the program. For the suit. You see, all the other recruits use it to protect themselves in a fight. To make them better. I use it so I'm not in constant pain. So I can use my powers without the feeling of the thousands of bones cracking against my flesh. But then I became a monster. Let's quit the jokes here. You're not building soldiers with us. You're creating monsters. I know what I am. The serfs have become the monsters to us. The creatures that little kids are afraid of, hiding in their closets. So, you made us a reply to that. You took children and made them into monsters. Something for the serfs to be afraid of. Don't deny it either. After all this, the least you could do is have the decency to admit your goal. I remember the day I got recruited, I was so excited. I'd finally be able to run. Run and get away. While I was getting suited up, I got the news. Gardner was taken. My home planet invaded by the serfs. I could no longer run home. Did you feel that? So I couldn't run home. So I stayed in the program, and we got fresh recruits from both Gardner, Baz, and a whole mess of other places. It was easy to tell where certain people were from. 9 came from Baz. The way he talked was a dead giveaway. I wanted him to help me run away. I just wanted to run. Then, Chip burned and we got those recruits. Finally, we got 22. No clue where you got him, but you sure as hell found a monster in that guy. Did he even struggle with the tests? I hope so. Not just for his sake, but everybody's. I'd say I hope you lose control of him, but I really don't. This is the best place for him. If he gets loose, a lot of people will feel a hell of a lot of pain. So I genuinely hope you can keep control over him. I remember the first test. I was escorted into a room where a man was sitting on a chair blindfolded. Your teacher handed me a gun and told me to kill this man. I was told who the man was. A serial killer sentenced to be executed. He'd been given the option to have his execution delayed 1 year and to be moved into a nice minimal security prison on the proviso that I'd be the one to kill him. He'd accepted and there we were. So yes, I put 3 bullets through his chest and he died. There wasn't much blood. A bit seeped out of the back of his chair, his shirt reddened slightly, but apart from that, nothing really. Had to get used to killing things. I thought I was being made into a soldier designed to kill serfs. If I could kill a human, I sure as hell could kill a serf. So, yes, I killed him. Did I feel it? Yes, I fucking felt it. I couldn't sleep throughout the night, but I did it. It was my duty, and I did it. Then, the next year, I was given another test. I was taken back into the room, except now there were steps in the middle of the room. They didn't lead anywhere. I couldn't comprehend why they were even there. Then another man was dragged in, and I was given a gun with an envelope. It was the same deal as before, a felon awaiting execution. I opened the envelope and it told me to do something slightly different. I needed to understand that killing wasn't clean, nor was it easy. I had to force this man to stick his mouth on the steps. He needed to place his upper jaw on the top step and bite it. Then I simply had to stomp on the back of his head. He would die. If I killed him any other way, I would fail the test. They'd kick me out and take my suit away. I had no choice. The room went silent. I heard a quiet ringing sound in my ear like a broken speaker, becoming incrementally louder. I collapsed to the ground trying to breathe. I needed air. The ringing was so loud now. My eyes started to water. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't do this. How could I do this? I don't want to be a villain. I'm not a villain. I'm a villain. The ringing had become high-pitched, yet now it had rounded out. I'm a villain. Silence again. I stood up and pointed the gun at this criminal. I calmly told him, "Put your mouth against the steps." He said, "There's no way I'm..." I fired the gun next to his head, then slammed the piercing hot barrel against his cheek. He screamed in pain as he fell to the ground. I repeated myself, "I said, put your mouth against the steps." He replied again, "I told you, I slammed my foot down against his shin, breaking his leg. I could see my breath steam before my eyes as I spoke these words to him. You're going to put your mouth against those steps. There's no stopping that. It's just a question of how much pain I get to put you through before you allow this to happen." He refused a little bit longer, but eventually he caved. I watched tears roll down his cheeks as he placed his mouth on those steps. I walked over, and the only sound that could be heard in the room was his sobs. I didn't expect it to make a crunching sound. I couldn't look down. It was imperative that I did not look down. If I look down, then what I did becomes that much more real. I can't look down. I felt a cold presence against my cheek. I started to hear that ringing again. That broken speaker ringing. Was that blood on my cheek? I felt my breathing start to become heavier. I couldn't look down. I raised my hand to my cheek and felt the liquid. My eyes slowly started to water. My hand, it was red. Oh no. What had I done? I felt the sudden impact of what I'd done hit me. Tears began pouring out of my eyes now. I looked down. Oh no. Oh Mary, no. I collapsed and all I could hear was the ringing. I couldn't breathe. Then your men escorted me out of the room. I'd passed my test. I couldn't sleep for weeks. I dreaded what the next test might be. The next test was harder for me. It was the middle of the night when our room started filling up with water. We heard teacher's voice over the speaker. She said, "Recruits 3, 6, 11, and 17. In the table in the middle of the room, 3 breathers can be found. One of you will drown and die in this room. Good testing." We all instantly jumped for the breathers. I got one, so did 3 and 6. 17 was just standing there with no breather as the water raised up to her knees. She whispered, 3, please come over here. He did. Then she whispered something in his ear. He took a step back and said, no. His hand covered his face. I thought he was crying. Then he angrily screamed, no. There was a look of nothing but fury on his face, but then it morphed into sadness as he handed her the breather. The water soon surrounded us, and he held his breath. He held his breath for quite some time, but then, eventually, he took one in. I watched as water suddenly rushed into his lungs. He panicked, started thrashing around. I grabbed him. I wanted to help him, but then I realized there was nothing I could do. I couldn't save him. I snapped his neck. The least I could do was end his misery. His body came to a standstill. They kept us in there with him for a while. It looked almost as if he was sleeping, motionless, at peace. Eventually the water was drained and he was taken away. That really fucked with 9. Him and 9 had become best friends. After this, 17 disappeared for 6 months. A lot of us were messed up by the test. Each group lost somebody, except for the last group. The last group had 22. He's a monster, but he's effective at everything he does. You tell him what to do and he'll find a way to do it. He saved the person in his group. The worst part of that wasn't that he was able to do what we couldn't, but the fact that he did it so easily. I could have done it. Any of us could have done it. It was so simple. Why didn't we think of it? He shared his breather. That's all. All of us could have survived on one breather if we had to. But we didn't. We had 3, yet one of us died. I couldn't sleep for weeks. Why did you do this to us? How far is too far for you people? The 4th test, I was led to a room where there was a man standing in the middle. I was handed an envelope, but no gun this time. The letter inside read, "This will be your final test. This man is not a criminal. He has not committed a crime. To complete this test, you must kill this man. Good testing." The man begged me not to take his life, but I did. I've done a lot of things I wish I hadn't done. I wish I killed him in a more effective way. He struggled, but I strangled him. He tried to claw his way out, left a scar across my face. I should have just snapped his neck. That would have ended it all very quickly. But I didn't. I strangled this man to death. I passed the test. Like I always did. Last month, I was sent out into the field with a team consisting of 9, 12, 22, and myself. We were out on a mission. Not a real one. You said we weren't allowed out on those till we're 18. No, this was a human mission to check out this drug gang on the planet Harvest Blue. We were suited up and ready to run in. That was when it opened. A sudden and very bright white circle appeared out of nowhere. Then the beast stepped out as the circle closed, and it tore a device off its chest. It clutched a severed human arm. I had never seen anything like it. At first, I thought it was some kind of mutated serf, but it wasn't. It was too big to be a serf. Way too big. It tore up the lab in seconds. Then it turned its attention to us. I ran at it. I went to block its punch, expecting the suit to take the shock. That punch knocked me out for the next 48 seconds. When I woke up, I saw 9 lying on the ground. His suit was all torn up and crumpled like foil. 22 jumped on the beast's back and slammed the device against it. The portal reopened and the beast was dragged in. 22 collapsed against the ground in front of it. The portal slowly dragged him in. He was too tired to fight it. He slipped into the portal, nearly gone, with the beast, when 12 grabbed his hand. 12 started sliding in the portal. His whole arm was inside. He created ice around the rest of his body to resist the pull, but he couldn't drag 22 out. It was almost as if he was claimed by that thing. The portal closed, and with a spray of blood, 12's arm was torn off. He was screaming, thrashing on the ground. I ran over to 9 to see if he was alive. I held him. He looked at me and laughed. "What a way," he said. Then died. He died in my arms. Now I can't shake the feeling that this was just another test. I mean, what are the chances of this happening on the one night we went there? We'd been trained to be the best of the best. We'd trained to be unstoppable. But that thing just tore through us. Do you feel that? Because I did. It was fear. For the first time in a long time, I'd felt something. And it was fear. You're probably wondering why this is so long. It's because 22 was a hero. He saved us from that thing, and I was a monster. All along I was the monster. But that's the thing. I don't have to be. This is so long because this is my goodbye. By the time you finish reading this, I'll be dead in my room. I will have slit my throat. I'm done with being a monster.